How do we continue to make the playing field level for all? In this country, we were founded, and we believe, in the words that Thomas Jefferson wrote, that all men are created equal. That's what I believe. But I also know the reality that not all have the same opportunities, and not all opportunities are equal. I grew up in a home, I was blessed, I grew up in a home with two supportive parents, with food on the table, clothes to wear, and books all around me. I got to college and I met teammates who didn't come from that same background. They didn't have the same reality I did. I spent over 20 years as a college football coach, and I saw educational inequality in this country. It was a lesson that we all learned from Joe Paterno as coaches. He would tell us, remember guys, you're only as fast as your slowest player, as strong as your weakest player, and only as smart as the player who knows the least. That is true on any team, and it is true for our nation. We cannot reach our full potential if we leave some behind. John F. Kennedy once said, he said, if a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. We need to remember that. We must accept nothing less than to help all children. Parents and children in every part of our society all have dreams for their futures. But dreams often run into hard realities. There are many children in this country that need help. They need signs. They need to understand what their opportunities are. They need direction. One of the things that Joe Paterno used to tell me all the time was that the difference between sinners and saints is often just direction. He'd tell me St. Paul was killing Christians when he was struck down on the road to Damascus and he saw the light. And God showed him the light. That dynamic can work both ways. As a young man, I can still remember, I met him as a sophomore and we recruited him. And he had a really rough home life. He would go to school some days not knowing where he would sleep that night, hoping that he could stay at a friend's house for a couple of days or a relative. But he was overcoming all of it. He was an A.B. student as a sophomore. But he lost his way, and within a year and a half, he lost the light, dropped out of his high school, and he'd been shot. You see, we as adults, and we as people in this country, we have an obligation to help young people not only see the path that they should walk, we have to fight every day to keep them on that path. For some children in this country, it's easy. They have families who teach them, and they're there for them from their first days of childhood. Others are born in situations where seeing the light is harder because they're hungry, or they're homeless, or they have no rock to anchor the foundation of their lives. Rick Sales and the people at Penn Civilians have been lighting the way for others and helping them see the light. They're reaching children, and they're helping parents, and enabling them to dream bigger dreams than they imagine for themselves. That is hugely important. It is vital work in this country. In this country, we fail our children. We fail our students when we fail to inspire them. Many blame failing schools or teachers or standardized testing or school safety or any other number of factors that they want to point the fingers at. But too often we fail our children because we set the bar too low. We don't share a grander vision for them with them. We don't engage them. We don't inspire them. We need to point to a further horizon beyond where they believe they can go. Then we need to arm them with the tools to travel beyond the limits of what they can see. All too often we don't challenge them to go beyond those limits and beyond limited and easy to reach goals. If we are to remain a great nation, that must change. And it must change on the grassroots level with organizations like this. Reaching for and passing difficult goals, that is what Penn State football was all about under Joe Paterno. I will never apologize for saying it. Yes, there was a culture of football at Penn State. And that culture of football that Joe Paterno created was the model everyone else in college athletics aspired to reach. It was about asking young people to do difficult things, to make sacrifices, to be part of a team, to challenge them to win in the classroom, on the field, and as people. We weren't perfect. Nothing humans ever get involved in is perfect. But that's the kind of vision we need for our country. What Joe Paterno did in challenging his student athletes should be an example to others, charged to impact and educate students who will be leaders tomorrow. For the last 7 years of his career, there are people who can say, you know, Joe Paterno led his team on the field in wins and losses to the 6th best record in the country, which is, out of 127 schools, pretty impressive. But more importantly, during that span, Penn State was the only school in the country to win over 77% of our games, and far more importantly, to graduate over 77% of our football student athletes, including over 80% of our black student athletes. You see, his father taught him, and my father taught me something that Martin Luther King Jr. preached. He did not ask for special consideration. He simply asked for a merit-based world, a world where we were all judged by the content of our character and not by the color of our skin. That was Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, and it was a reality I was taught, and that my family instilled in our program, my father instilled in our program. He did not judge your race, the size of your checkbook, or what God you prayed to. My father believed it, and he lived it, and I learned it, and I live it still. For decades, our program gave opportunities to get an education to every student athlete who came here. That's all we ever promised anyone. The promise was a reality because we understood that not all young men who came here arrived with the same preparation for college. With that understanding, we knew there were some who we needed to stay on. Some of them were in this room that we needed to stay on. I'm not looking at you all. But we needed to stay on them, to motivate them, to help them catch up, to survive and then thrive. It worked. It worked across decades. It endured over time. As many of you may know, I worked in the Obama campaign. I've been fortunate to have met the president a couple of times, and I've spent time with the vice president. My father was intrigued by what the Obama presidency meant to this country. Beyond policy, beyond historical significance, my father believed, as I believe, that his presidency will have a lasting legacy. You see, for years, when I was coaching, we'd go into inner city high schools. And in those inner city high schools, whether my father was with me or I was in there were some constants that you would see. You would see some pictures of Martin Luther King Jr. There were literacy posters where people would be on the poster reading a book. You've all seen them. It says read. And on those big posters were athletes or actors or rappers, all successful people in fields that they were in, but in fields where success is 1 in a million. After the 2008 election, when I went out to recruit that fall, in December and January, the constant in those inner city schools became pictures of President Barack Obama. As successful as the actors and athletes had been, they had reached the limit, the ceiling in their profession. President Obama had the power to sign bills into law, select cabinet officers or Supreme Court justices. He's the leader of the most powerful nation on earth. President Obama showed everyone in this country, everyone, black men surely, but also women and people in poverty and people who were born to families that were not connected, that there was no limit to what you could do. For the first time, that was a reality. I can remember my father sitting there the day after the election and saying, now everyone in this country knows. Everyone knows there is no limit to what they can do. And somewhere in his youth, the right person pushed President Obama. His mother kept him up late to study. His grandparents kept pushing him. Somebody reached him. And the higher he reached, the more his goals grew. But he had family in his life to help him see his future. The people that Penn civilians are helping, many of them need that. They need mentors. They need people in their lives to show them that they can and will do better. For young people, the challenge is necessary. Society too often teaches us to be complacent. After all, we are America. #1 for as long as anybody in this room has been alive. When we reach a crisis point, yeah, we'll turn it on and we'll stay ahead. But the world is changing rapidly. We live in a world where competition for innovation, for good jobs, for world leadership can and will come from anywhere and everywhere. Education is more vital now than it has ever been in the history of this country. Factories move, capital markets are transnational, technology connects us all, bringing all competitors on the globe into play. But we must not fear competition. We must embrace it and recognize the challenge it presents us is an opportunity to stretch beyond what we thought we could accomplish. In this state, there are going to be new opportunities. Whether we capitalize on them depends on the education we give the young people and the leadership skills that they get. Penn has a program pairing young students with older students who act as mentors. The younger students certainly benefit. As you saw from the speakers here tonight, they certainly benefit from the positive examples they get in their lives. But the mentors get just as much back, if not more, than the younger students they help. The mentors gain self-esteem through meaningful interaction in a leadership role. They take a hand leading, and with leadership comes a sense of self-worth, a confidence that encourages more achievement in their own lives. Empowerment and helping others is an experience that transforms a soul and inspires it to success at ever-rising levels. That is where everyone in this room comes in. Your presence here, your commitment, your donations, it empowers you to help transform souls. As you leave tonight, I hope you feel some of that. And as you leave tonight, you feel some of that. I hope a slight smile at least will come across your face. As you lay in bed and look up, you know you've done something good. This has been a horrible week to watch the news. One of the worst I can remember. The bombings in Boston, the poisoned letters mailed to the president and senators, the explosion in Texas. It has tested the resolve of so many people. But I have found in those moments in life, and I've been involved obviously in the last 18 months in a rather large news story that involved my family and my father directly, but in those moments, sometimes in those darkest moments of your life, you will see acts, or you will hear words that inspire or lift you at the right moment. At the interfaith service that they had in Boston this week, Cardinal O'Malley of Boston recited one of the most beautiful prayers I've ever read, one of the most beautiful prayers ever written by St. Francis of Assisi. Now, I was familiar with that prayer because I was raised Catholic, and my Catholic upbringing was hammered into us every once in a while, but you forget about it sometimes, and you hear something at the right moment. And as I watched that service, and I was thinking about the speech the president was going to give, I thought about how I, at one point, had to stand up in a memorial service and make a speech, and some memories came back to me, and I was a little bit down. But when Cardinal O'Malley read the prayer, it said, "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life." It's a prayer of service. It's a prayer of giving. Let me repeat that last part. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It's not a prayer for wealth. It's not a prayer for riches. It is a prayer to serve. Tonight I want to thank everyone involved with Penn. All of you who are here to support, I want to thank you as well. It is in giving that you are receiving. It is in inspiring others that you find yourself inspired. You are what we need more and more of in this country. People giving of themselves to make us all better. I can still remember President Obama in a speech once saying, I want to live in a country where I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. And that's what we need more of. You know, the word hero is tossed around in this country so much that sometimes it loses its value. It is attached to athletes who make last-second shots. It is attached to movie stars. It is attached to people because they successfully accumulate large wealth. It's often misplaced. One of my heroes is Arthur Ashe. And Arthur Ashe was a tremendous tennis star, but more importantly, a leader and a humanitarian. Arthur Ashe once said of heroism, he said, true heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. Tonight, I salute the people in this room who aim to serve others at whatever cost. Your actions make you heroic to the people you reach, to the lives you have changed and will continue to change, and to the country that is better because of your work. Thank you very much.